Take a good look at everything you think you are. Your name, your history, your desires, your scars. Every single piece of that puzzle, the personality you defend like a junkyard dog, is built on a lie so deep you stopped questioning it before you could even walk. You've spent your whole life gripping this fictional character with both hands, feeding it, mourning it, polishing it for the world to see. But here's the truth. No one had the guts to tell you. You don't exist. Not the way you think you do. This isn't metaphor. It's not poetry. It's the ground beneath your feet cracking open. There was no starting point where you became real. That cute little origin story, the date they call your birthday, is just a flag planted in empty air. The truth? You are not a point on a timeline. You are not the sum of a series of events. You are the space they appeared in. Every memory you're clinging to, every victory, every humiliation, is nothing but graffiti on a wall that was never there. You've been taught to believe in a border, a clear line where you end and everything else begins. That border doesn't exist, never did. You were never a contained thing. You were never inside the limits you swear are real. You are not the character. You are the screen the character flickers across. You are not the water trapped in the glass. You are the tide, the depth, the entire goddamn ocean. But you don't want to hear that, do you? Because if you're not the person you thought you were, every story you've ever told yourself falls apart. Every grudge, every regret, every excuse. All of it depends on you being real. But you are not. The you that gets offended, gets scared, gets proud. It's smoke. A reflex. An echo pretending to have substance. Everything you are clinging to, you are borrowing from something bigger. The awareness underneath it all. The awareness that doesn't have a name, doesn't have a face, doesn't give a damn about your plans or your reputation. You were never born. There was no dividing line where the universe stopped and you began. You're the whole damn thing. The sky, the storm, the silence underneath. That's why you suffer. Because you're fighting to protect something that isn't real. Defending a mask you glued to your own face. You're terrified to lose yourself, but you can't lose something that never existed to begin with. This isn't philosophy. This is demolition. Tear down every last story you've told yourself. Burn every label they gave you. Stand there naked, without a single word to cling to. What's left? That silence, that awareness, the thing that was watching long before you learned to talk. That's you. Not the character, not the name, not the timeline. Just this. The thing that never arrived because it was never absent. The thing that can't die because it was never born. If you want truth, you're going to have to bleed for it. The you you're trying to save is the first thing that has to go. So let's start cutting. Close your eyes. Ask yourself one simple question. Who am I? Don't reach for the pretty answers. Don't recycle the bullshit titles you've been trained to spit out. Parent, teacher, fighter, artist, survivor. It's all noise. Now sit in the silence after the noise fades. Who's left? Who's the one even asking the question? That's where the scam starts to collapse. From the second you could understand words, they handed you a script. This is you. This is your name. These are your boundaries. Play along. Don't ask questions. They put a border around your skin and said, inside this is you, outside this is not. And like a fool, you believed them. You've dragged that fake identity through every day of your life. Reinforced it with every grudge, every desire, every moment you spent staring in the mirror whispering, this is me. But you never asked the only question that matters. What the hell is this me I'm clinging to? Picture this. You scoop a glass of water from the ocean. For a moment, it looks separate. A thing you can hold, claim, even name if you're dumb enough. But the second you pour it back, where's the boundary? Where does the glass water end and the ocean begin? You can't find it. It was never real. That's yourself. A flimsy container you keep trying to separate from everything else. But the second you stop clenching your fists around it, the boundary dissolves, because it was never there. And yet, here you are, wasting your life hoarding it. My mind, my body, my life. Which body? The one you were born with? The one you have now? Every cell you had a decade ago is long gone. What you're calling me is a temporary pile of parts you've already swapped out 1,000 times. Your thoughts? Same scam. Today you believe one thing. Tomorrow you believe the opposite. You're not a thinker. You're just a recycling bin for passing noise. None of it sticks. None of it lasts. So what the hell are you actually clinging to? Even your feelings. The precious, all-consuming emotions you swear make you real. Where do they live? Point to them. Show me exactly where in your body fear sits. Where does love hide? They rise up. They crash down. And you're left there, after every storm, wondering who you are once they're gone. John Wheeler put it simple. This fragile character you're so desperate to defend is nothing but a mental habit, a glitch you've been feeding since childhood. Nothing more. You are not the story you keep repeating to yourself. You are the silence underneath it. You are not the character running around your mind's stage. You are the empty space the stage sits in, untouched, unbothered, and unchanged, no matter what plays out. See through this, and the whole game shifts. You stop needing to be something. You stop grabbing onto titles like lifeboats. You stop fighting to prove you exist. And when you stop, that's when you finally see. There's no you to defend. There's no border to protect. There never was. You were never a drop. You were always the sea. And the moment you taste that, the story ends, and reality begins. Let's get to the only question that actually matters. What are you? Don't you dare reach for the usual things. Not your name, not your job, not some stitched-together sob story you've been polishing for years. Throw all that in the fire. What's left? Start where you are. Thoughts flying through your head like insects smashing into a windshield. 1 second it's dinner plans. The next, you're replaying some half-dead memory from 10 years ago, trying to rewrite the past. But pause. Who's seeing all that? Who's the one noticing the thought instead of being the thought? If you can see it, you can't be it. Which means every thought you've ever had, every flash of fear, every opinion, every self-congratulatory fantasy, none of them are you. You're the space they pass through, the screen, not the movie. And this watcher, this presence, has been here since day one. It was there before you knew your own name. It was there while you were falling apart. It was there in the silence after your loudest victories. Now let's talk about emotions, the things you call my feelings. Anger, joy, anxiety, lust. They show up like storms rolling through the sky, loud, heavy, and convincing. But when the storm passes, what's left? The sky doesn't cling to the rain. The sky doesn't need therapy to process the thunder. It holds everything, resists nothing, and stays untouched. You are that sky, not the lightning flash you keep calling me. And your precious body, the holy temple you call mine. It's not even the same body you started with. Every skin cell, every organ, every molecule has been swapped out over and over. You've been 1,000 bodies already, and you're still here. So if you're not the thoughts, not the emotions, and not the flesh, who the hell are you? Stop hunting for answers in that rotting filing cabinet you call a mind. The mind only spits out data it stole from somewhere else. Instead, aim at what's noticing, the silent awareness that's been watching the whole time. It's not trying to figure anything out. It's not pushing or pulling. It just sees, effortless, immediate, pure. You can feel it right now. You don't need a guru. You don't need permission. This presence is so close, you've spent your whole life tripping over it. It's the only thing that doesn't come and go. It was here before your first memory. It'll be here after your last breath. John Wheeler nailed it. This awareness is what you are. Not a feature, not a side effect. It's the ground floor. The only thing that's real. It doesn't belong to your mind. It doesn't belong to your body. It's free. It's endless. It's been waiting for you to notice it since the beginning. You want proof? Try this. Breathe. Don't control it. Just notice it. Now shift your attention, not to the breath, but to whatever's seeing the breath. That silent seeing. That's you. You're not a person trying to become aware. You are awareness, temporarily playing dress-up as a person. When you finally see that, the whole desperate search for yourself collapses. Because the truth isn't hiding. It's been sitting in your lap the whole time. Let everything else rot. The thoughts, the emotions, the roles, the stories. They're just static. You are the silence underneath. You are the ocean, still, infinite, whole. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. What does it actually mean to say you were never born? At first glance, it sounds absurd. You have memories, a body, a birthday marked on some document. Proof, right? Photos from when you were too small to stand, faces smiling down at you, evidence that you arrived, that you started somewhere. But what if all of that, every scrap of it, was nothing more than a story stitched together after the fact? A collection of fragments used to convince you that you are something separate. A fragile individual with a clear beginning, crawling toward an inevitable end. This is where the fracture line begins, the point where belief and reality no longer match. The truth is simple enough to be terrifying. You were never born, not the way you've been taught to believe. You, as you truly are, have no starting point, no point of entry, no arrival. What you are didn't step onto the stage of existence one day. You were never a new arrival. You are the backdrop itself. What you are has no beginning, because it was never absent. What you are has no end, because it was never confined. What you are doesn't belong to time. It watches time pass. The belief in a personal birth drags you into a lie. The illusion that you are a separate piece of reality, cut off from everything else. A wandering fragment. A self with boundaries, with edges that need protecting. A story with a first page and a final breath. But none of that is true. The awareness reading these words right now, the silent noticing happening behind every thought, was never born with your body. It won't die when your body fades. It's been here long before the face in the mirror started changing. It's been here long before the first label was pinned on you. You are not the collection of stories appearing in that awareness. You are the awareness itself. Think back. When you were a child, your body was smaller, your thoughts simpler, your world tiny and close. Everything changed. Your voice, your hands, your beliefs, your desires. But through it all, something never moved. Something never became anything new. That silent witnessing, the space where every experience passed through, didn't grow up. It didn't evolve. It didn't age with your body. It didn't fracture when you were hurt. It didn't swell with your victories. It just stayed, silent, watching, unchanged. The screen never became the movie. The sky never became the storm. Here's the reality you've been too distracted to notice. Most of your fear comes from defending something that doesn't exist. A self that was born, that will die, that needs constant protection. But when you see that this self was only ever an assumption, not a fact, that fear collapses in on itself. Because how can you lose something that was never real? How can you die if you were never truly born? What can be taken from you if you were never something separate to begin with? This isn't an abstract theory. It's not a spiritual slogan to ease your fear of death. It's direct, living truth. The kind you don't need to believe because you can see it for yourself right now. Right now, thoughts are rising and falling like waves. Watch closely. The thoughts come and go. But does the awareness that sees them ever change? Does it fade with each passing thought? Or does it remain untouched, no matter what passes through it? That still, silent awareness, the thing noticing every flicker of mind and memory, that's you. Not the thoughts, not the stories, not the body. Just the silent, unshakable presence where all of it appears and disappears. That's what it means to be unborn. It doesn't mean denying the world or pretending the body doesn't exist. It means seeing clearly. You were never the character you thought you were. You were never the container. You are the space itself, the silence that holds it all, the unmoving, unshakable, eternal ground that nothing can add to or take from. There was never a birth. There will never be a death. The ocean doesn't begin or end with each wave, and neither do you. This is not comfort. It's not optimism. It's the kind of truth that doesn't care if you're ready for it. You were never small enough to be born. You were never fragile enough to die. And the only thing that needs to be lost is the illusion that you were ever something separate. There's a voice in your head. You know the one. The voice that never shuts up. The one that spends every waking moment narrating your life like a cheap documentary. It says, "This is who I am. This is what I want. This is what I deserve." It claims every thought, every impulse, every emotion as its own. That voice, the one you mistake for yourself, is the ego. And here's the truth you've been avoiding. It's not real. It never was. The ego isn't some core essence buried deep inside you. It's not the source of your personality or the keeper of your identity. It's nothing more than a looping thought, a flicker of noise repeating itself so many times you forgot to question it. Close your eyes. Think the words, "I am me." Feel that brief sense of certainty. That sense of course this is true. Now look closer. Where does that thought live? Is it in your chest? Your head? Your hands? Can you point to it? Hold it? Lock it down? You can't. Because the ego isn't a thing. It's an assumption, a reflex you've been feeding since childhood, a glitch you learned to worship. Here's the catch. If the ego was real, it wouldn't shift. But it does. One moment you're confident. The next, you're ashamed. One moment you feel unstoppable. The next, you feel like a failure. If the core of who you are keeps changing, what exactly are you trying so hard to defend? And yet, behind every high and low, there's something that never moves. Something that was watching when you were a child, and is still watching now. It didn't rise with your victories or shatter with your failures. It's not part of the story. It's the space the story appears in. That is you. Not the voice, not the opinions, not the fragile sense of identity you've been polishing your whole life. You are the awareness underneath it all. The awareness that doesn't need a story to exist. John Wheeler laid it bare. The ego is nothing but a mental habit, a reflexive story you mistook for your essence. Try to find it. Where does the ego live? Your head? Your heart? Somewhere between your thoughts? Look all you want, you'll find nothing, because there's nothing to find. The ego is a shadow, convincing only if you refuse to turn on the light. It thrives on being unexamined. The moment you see it for what it is, a collection of recycled thoughts, the whole illusion crumbles. So how do you break its grip? Not by fighting it, not by silencing it, not by replacing it with a better version of yourself. You break free by seeing through it, by recognizing that it was never anything more than noise drifting through awareness. The next time fear grabs you by the throat, stop running. Don't try to fix it. Instead, ask, who exactly is afraid right now? Look for the I that claims the fear. Chase it to its source. And what do you find? Nothing. The fear is there, but the one who claims it, gone. This is what John Wheeler meant when he said freedom doesn't come from defeating the ego. It comes from realizing there was never anyone to defeat. Imagine the weight that lifts when you no longer have to defend a fiction, when you no longer need to prove a self that was never real, when you stop dragging the corpse of your story everywhere you go. This is not detachment. It's not indifference. It's the only real freedom. The freedom of knowing that who you are needs nothing, protects nothing, owns nothing. Breathe. Let go of the idea that you are someone who needs saving. Let the whole story collapse. What's left is what you've always been, the silent awareness, unshaken, unburdened, free. That was the truth waiting underneath the noise all along. The ego didn't need to die, because it was never alive. What if the weight you've been carrying your entire life, the constant need to prove who you are, to protect your identity, to justify your existence, was all dead weight? What if the you you've been shielding, defending, and polishing was nothing more than a habit, a reflex, a mistake you were too afraid to question? Here's the truth. Life never needed you. Not the version of you that talks in your head. Not the character you spent decades building. Not the voice constantly shouting, "I am this, I want that, I deserve better." Take that whole structure, the fragile, noisy, defensive self, and let it go. See what happens. You won't disappear. You won't dissolve into nothing, because the you that life actually flows through was never inside that story to begin with. Have you ever noticed how much energy you waste trying to control how you're seen? How much effort goes into holding together this image of yourself? Someone strong, smart, capable, worthy? Who exactly are you performing for? What part of you is so terrified of being nothing? When you investigate that fear, all you find is a story you've repeated so many times you forgot it was optional. But step back, just once, and you'll see the truth hiding in plain sight. Life is already happening. Your heart beats, your lungs pull in air, your eyes process these words. None of it asks permission from your ego. It all unfolds on its own, flawlessly, with or without a controlling you. The thoughts you claim ownership of, they show up uninvited, drift through, and disappear without asking what you think about it. The emotions you call mine, they rise, explode, dissolve, without needing your direction. It's all one seamless flow, moving, shifting, pulsing, and none of it depends on the story you've been telling yourself. Even the thought, "I'm deciding this," is just part of the flow, another ripple trying to claim credit for the current. John Wheeler exposed it clearly. The idea that you are making life happen is nothing but a mental reflex, a conditioned habit you were trained to believe in. But the truth, life flows perfectly fine without that imaginary manager. Think about the last time you agonized over a decision, believing it all rested on your fragile shoulders. Now look deeper. Where did the decision actually come from? Did you invent it, or did it just rise up, triggered by the situation itself, like the next breath, appearing without a conscious vote? What happens when you stop clinging to the need to manage everything? You realize life has always moved on its own, and it's been moving through you the whole time. The next time stress floods in, don't run from it. Ask the only question that matters. Who exactly is this happening to? Where is the self that claims the stress? Find it if you can. All you'll uncover is a swirl of passing sensations. Tension here, a tightness there, but no one holding it. The storm is real. The me at the center of it, an empty chair. Living without a separate self doesn't mean hiding from life. It means finally meeting life directly, without the filter of a story standing in the way. When sadness rises, you let it. When joy explodes, you let it. Neither belongs to you. Neither needs your control. This isn't detachment. It's not stepping back from life. It's stepping so close, you can finally see that the line between you and the world was never real. Even the thought, "I'm experiencing this," is just another part of the flow. No different from wind through the trees. No different from the river carving through stone. There is no separate self living your life. There is only life, living itself. This doesn't need effort. It doesn't require practice. It's already happening. The only thing that shifts is the story dissolving, the illusion that you were ever something apart from it. You were never the one making life happen. You are life happening. The wind blows, the river flows, and you are the awareness where all of it appears. You were never something small enough to need saving. You were the whole thing all along. It's natural to doubt everything you're hearing right now. In fact, if you're not doubting it, you're probably not paying attention. The idea that you, the person you've spent your entire life being, never actually existed as you thought. That doesn't land gently. It's supposed to shake you. But doubt isn't the enemy. Doubt is the doorway. Every crack in your certainty, every tremor in your belief, is an invitation to see what's hiding underneath. Let's take the first question, the one your mind is probably screaming right now. If there's no separate self, who's living this life? It feels like a reasonable question. You feel your emotions. You make choices. You have memories. Doesn't all of that prove there's someone at the center holding it all together? Look closer. The emotions, they show up on their own. The decisions, they rise out of nowhere. The memories, they flicker and shift without asking your permission. Where's the one controlling all this? Search for it, and all you'll find is open space. Events happen, experiences unfold, but there's no central character pulling the strings. Picture a whirlpool spinning in a river. It looks like something separate, a thing with edges, a shape, a center. But it's not. It's just the river itself, twisting for a moment. It's the same with you. The person you think you are is just the flow of life, swirling temporarily. No boundary, no independent existence. Another doubt? If there's no self, how does life work? Who makes decisions? Who handles responsibilities? You believe the voice in your head, the one narrating every moment, is driving the whole show. But did it tell your heart to beat today? Did it decide to breathe? Life doesn't need a personal manager. It's never needed one. At first, driving a car feels like you're controlling everything, every turn, every press of the pedal. But over time, it flows. Movements happen without needing your constant micromanagement. That's how life itself works. The story of me only jumps in afterward, desperate to take credit for the ride. Here's another fear your mind will throw at you. If I'm just awareness, does that mean my life has no meaning? This question only makes sense if you think meaning has to be manufactured, attached to accomplishments, titles, and personal victories. But meaning isn't something you create. It's something you uncover the second you stop trying to be someone. Does the sun need to justify its light? It shines. That's all. And because it shines, everything else can exist. You, the real you, the awareness behind all of this, doesn't need a story to matter. You already do, because without you, there's no experience at all. The ego will fight this tooth and nail. It will scream, if there's no me, do I even matter? But the part of you desperate to matter is the smallest part of what you are. The real you doesn't need validation because it's not small enough to need it. What you are isn't a drop begging to be noticed. What you are is the entire ocean, moving through every living thing. And finally, the fear beneath all fears, if I see through the self, will I lose my humanity? This fear comes from the belief that without a personal identity, you'll become cold, detached, mechanical. The exact opposite is true. When you stop guarding an imaginary self, you stop living at a distance from life. You stop filtering every moment through, what does this mean for me? And finally, for the first time, you can meet life directly, open, raw, without a story standing in the way. Picture standing on the edge of the sea, waves crashing at your feet. You don't try to own the waves. You don't demand they prove their worth. You just stand there, present, watching them rise, watching them fall, fully alive. That's what life is without a separate self. Not detachment, but direct experience, with nothing left to defend. So next time doubt comes, don't run. Don't try to explain it away. Ask, who is doubting? Who is afraid? Chase that me to its core, and you'll find nothing. Just more waves. The doubt itself dissolves into the space it rose from. Doubt isn't an enemy. It's a blade cutting through the illusion. Every time you question what you are, the false foundation cracks a little more. until there's nothing left but the truth, the awareness that was never born, never bound, and never lost. Breathe into that. The doubts will fade, but you, the real you, remain. So here we are, back where we started, the only place we've ever been. You've torn through your beliefs, stripped down the stories, questioned the borders you swore were real. You dug as deep as you could, only to find nothing. Not a better version of yourself, not a spiritual prize. Just the same silent awareness that's been here all along. The one thing you overlooked because it was too close to see. This isn't something you achieve. It's not something you earn. It's what you've always been. The truth of what you are doesn't demand that you renounce the world or pull back from life. It asks only that you stop mistaking the passing waves for the ocean. The joy, the fear, the loss, the victory, they all rise and fall, but none of them define you, because you are not the waves. You are the ocean itself, silent, unmoved, endless. And the best part? Nothing in your outer life needs to change for this to be true. You don't need to heal every scar, solve every problem, or become some perfected version of yourself. What you are, this formless awareness, has been complete since the beginning. The storms came, the storms passed, and the sky, untouched. So what does this mean when you wake up tomorrow? It means the search is over. You don't have to chase meaning, because meaning was never something separate from you. You don't have to run from fear, because fear doesn't belong to you. You don't have to cling to your past or obsess over your future, because none of it ever defined you. Life unfolds, moment by moment, without needing your permission. And when you stop trying to hold it all together, something remarkable happens. You actually show up for it. Not as a defender of a fragile self, not as a character desperate for validation, but as the awareness itself, wide open, present, untouchable. Without the constant noise of the mind drowning everything out, life becomes clearer, not easier, not safer, just clearer. You stop treating relationships like mirrors reflecting your worth. You stop seeing challenges as personal threats. You stop using the future as an escape route from the present. John Wheeler wasn't offering a comforting idea when he said, "The search for truth ends when you realize you were never lost." He was pointing to the one thing you can't lose, because you never left it. This awareness, the thing noticing every thought, every fear, every craving, this has been your only constant. Not your name, not your story, not your past. Just this, silent, unchanging, always here. The idea of being unborn isn't a rejection of life. It's the clearest confirmation that life itself is what you are. You were never something fragile enough to be born, never something temporary enough to die. You are the space every birth and death passes through, always present, always whole. Take a breath and feel it, the stillness under everything, the weightlessness that comes from knowing there's nothing left to defend. This isn't a high you'll crash from. It's not a revelation you'll lose, because it's not something you discovered. It's what's been staring you in the face the whole time. So as you walk back into the noise of the world, you won't carry this understanding like a trophy. You'll live it, not as a concept, but as the ground beneath your every step. Let it shape your choices, soften your fears, and remind you with every breath. You are not a person reaching for awareness. You are awareness itself, already whole, already free. The journey never began, because there was nowhere to go. You've always been home.
You've seen the cracks. Now keep looking.